Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. The Wisconsin Supreme Court is hearing oral arguments today in a case that we here at Court TV have been closely following. It involves Chrystul Kizer. Back in the summer of 2018, the then 17-year-old shot and killed Randall Voller, according to police. Now, he was a man that she accused of molesting her and sex trafficking her to others. A controversial Wisconsin law could potentially give Kizer immunity. That's because the law at the time gives immunity to sex trafficking victims of crimes that they commit while they're being trafficked. Let's take a look back now at the case. Supporters in Kenosha, Wisconsin are calling on authorities to free Chrystul Kizer, an accused killer. They say Kizer is a victim of human trafficking. They want the district attorney to drop murder charges against her. Kizer says she was defending herself when she shot and killed 34-year-old Randall Voller and set his house on fire in June of 2018. Kizer was just 17 years old at the time. Randy Voller was charged with child sex abuse and was out on bail at the time of his death. Kizer's mother says the prosecutor knew about Voller's alleged activities, but did nothing to stop him.
He had evidence. The fact that it took for her to do something because she got tired of it. And he trying to like sweep the whole problem under the rug, but it's so much more bigger than just her.
But District Attorney Michael Gravely says Kizer killed Voller because she wanted to steal his car and then bragged about the killing on social media.
Where she is essentially bragging on a Facebook Live sort of telecast. She has a gun in her hand. She's waving that gun in her hand, and she is discussing how if somebody makes her mad, she'll shoot them like she shot someone previously, and there are people there trying to quiet her down.
Kizer's case has gained national attention, with celebrities like Alyssa Milano and Patricia Arquette calling for her release. Kizer's case is reminiscent of the Centoya Brown case in Tennessee, which also garnered a lot of attention. Brown was a victim of child sex trafficking. She was tried, convicted, and sentenced to life in prison for murdering a man in 2004. He allegedly bought her for sex when she was 16 years old.
I've been able to help people, which is amazing. Young people, young kids, they listen. And I know it's purely an act of mercy that you even give me a hearing.
Brown was granted clemency by then Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam after serving 15 years. She was released in August of 2019. Kizer faces life in prison if she's convicted of murder and arson.
My only thing is I want my child home, and it's messed up how everything happened.
Wow, this case is really something. There is quite a faction of supporters for Chrystul Kizer, and we want to be very clear. Legally today, the Wisconsin Supreme Court is not being asked to decide whether or not she is guilty or not guilty of the murder case. The court is only considering whether or not she can argue that this law protects her from any potential criminal liability. So we're going to keep our eyes on that. We don't necessarily expect a decision today, just the arguments are being heard. The decision will come later. Let me bring in my guests now for some discussion. We have with us use of force expert David Wright and trial attorney Imran Ansari. Imran, let me begin with you, please, if I may, on this one. Tell me your thoughts on this law, what it can do, and in your view, is this the type of case that this law is essentially designed for a person who's been victimized like Chrystul Kizer has?
Yeah, Julie, I mean, this is a circumstance that, is tragic, that someone is forced to undergo something so horrific in their life and then take action, and of course is charged with that, because under the law that would constitute homicide, and we don't expect the law to be just set aside. But this allows, as you stated, the defendant to put forth this defense. And if she's allowed to do so, there's certain circumstances. This may be the circumstance. There may be other circumstances where people are victimized and they take certain acts of preservation, acts in order to save themselves from being a victim. And we know that there's the self-defense justification affirmative defense. We know that there's certain other affirmative defenses that a defendant may be able to put forth at trial. And if there is a good faith basis for a defendant to do so, say in a circumstance like this or similar to this where they have been victimized and they have taken certain action, well, again, as you stated, they still need to run the gauntlet of the trial or the law and put it to the trier of fact, a jury, to determine guilt or innocence. But should they be afforded the ability to put forth an affirmative defense like this? Well, you know, I say in certain circumstances, if it is a circumstance where someone has taken upon themselves to get them out of a horrible situation, they shouldn't get a free pass. Don't get me wrong, but they should be allowed to put forth that defense before the court, before a jury. And if they have a strong defense on that in that regard, well, they should be afforded all the benefit of the law.
Imran, appreciate it. David Wright, may I just pick your brain a little bit about this dark world that a sex trafficking victim lives in? I mean, these are some of the most sinister, horrific crimes out there, and when you think about what someone has to go through, you know, it's hard to really understand or even be able to try to put yourselves in the shoes of someone like Chrystul Kizer. Can you share with us a little bit about what you've learned, you know, in law enforcement and just seeing some of those situations and what victims are exposed to?
Just truly tragic. And Imran mentioned this. The physical abuse, I could not imagine it. But also, think of the psychological abuse. And so yeah, this should be a viable defense because her life is really, you know, permanently altered. You know, this is a forcible felony, and it's being committed on her, and she's put in a situation where the physical side and the psychological effects are going to be long lasting for the rest of her life, and she's permanently damaged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it's truly dreadful in these types of crimes. You're right. They don't just end with the act. That damage is permanent, and this is something that survivors of that kind of abuse are fighting day in and day out, even if they get out of that situation. And thankfully, she's out of it now. And we'll keep our eyes on the court there in Wisconsin as they hear these arguments, and we'll let everyone know what is going on with Chrystul Kizer's case.